AFP LLC, we're back, ladies and germs. Let's talk about the fuel. Hello, ladies and germs. Welcome back to the AFP LLC. Today, the topic will be the fuel source. Now, what I'd like for you to do today is understand that the fuel source is not fossil fuels. It's not coal. It's not plasma or hydrogen or nuclear. It's a fuel source that's readily available and pretty much, I would say, inexhaustible. It's the biggest word I can come up with for that. It's inexhaustible. Once you realize what it is, you're going to understand. So what I want to do is bring you to that understanding. I'm going to paint a picture for you, so I want you to use your mind's eye and your imaginator. And now as I explain this short story to you, what you're going to be able to do is understand what the AFP LLC is going to do, how the fuel source is going to be derived, what other products will be coming from it, how it's going to work. Now, if I had simply just told you what the fuel source is, in most cases, it would just be similar to a bunch of people who simply don't understand how it would work, so they would just poo-poo it and naysay it like, oh, that'd never work. But with that said, the same fuel source I'm about to divulge to you is already being used by big companies and some countries. They're just not using it to the best of its ability to get the maximum results from it and to be able to do all the things that I am going to be explaining to you what it does. So let's get into the short story so I can explain to you what's going to happen with the fuel, what it is, and where it comes from. Now imagine, if you will, a half pipe. That's that thing that skateboarders go back and forth in and do tricks. So what I want you to imagine is one of those half pipes, and in it there's just a lot of random stuff. Okay, there's metals and steels, like regular steel, stainless steel. There's wood of all kinds, plywoods, 2x4s, 2x12s, planks. There's a bunch of cardboard and paper. There will be equipment like welders or electronic equipment. There will be different types of things to be able to create other stuff from. There will be a lot of glass. There will be a lot of plastic. There will be just about anything that you could think of that you would need to create stuff with. Now, as you remove things from this massive pile, it starts to move forward so that all you have to do is go up to the front of the pile and remove stuff. But as every time you go to the pile, you look back into it, you keep seeing things that you need to create the stuff you want. So everything is segregated into other piles. So you'll have a pile of wood, and you'll have a pile of steel, you'll have a pile of paper, a pile of plastic. That's all going to different areas. And those areas will be stockpiled, where you end up having a lot of product to use in order to do the things you want to do, the projects you want to do, no matter what they are. There will be plenty of these products and supplies, so you can imagine building just about anything that you build in the regular city that you live in. So out of this pile, let's just say a guy walks up and he sees the pile and thinks to himself, he goes, you know what, I need to make a box, and I see some stuff in there I can make a box out of. So he decides to start digging through the pile, and as he's going through it, he's pulling out different stuff and sorting it into different piles. So as he pulls out planks of wood and plywood and anything else, he puts it over on this side. And as he pulls out the steel and metal that he needs, he puts it in a pile that he's going to create from. And as he goes through it and other things are in the way, like cardboard or plastics or any type of other things that may be in that pile, he starts to segregate those into different piles. So as he's going through the pile, he finally finds himself a welder, and then he also finds himself a generator, and then he finds himself, say, a couple of gallons of gas. So he decides to hook up the generator to the welder, get some steel, and then use some of the other stuff he found, like clamps, etc. Just stuff you would need to make a project with. And so he clamps together the steel, and he starts to get ready to weld it. But as he's doing that, another person walks up and asks, hey, what are you doing? He says, I'm making myself a box. I want to put stuff in it and send it away. And the guy says, you know what, I need a box too. He goes, but I don't know how to weld. So the guy with the box says to him, well, if you go into that pile, dig out the stuff you need, and as soon as I'm done welding here, I'll come over and help you. So the guy goes through the pile himself and creates another pile and does the same as the first guy. As he's digging through, segregates the product into different piles and pulls out the stuff he needs. So this guy could tell from what the first person did how to clamp the box together, because he had seen the simple work, which was just putting the four walls of the box together so that it could be welded. And as he's clamping that and putting it together, a third person walks up and says, hey, what you got going on? He says, well, I'm making a box. He goes, as soon as I'm done putting this together, I'm going to have this other guy come over here and weld a couple of spaces for me so that I could use the box that I'm making for what I want it for. And the third guy that comes walking up says to him, hey, I want to help. I'd like to have, the knowledge of being able to make a box too. I've never made one. And as soon as the person who's done welding the first box was done, he walks over and says, hey, what's going on, guys? He goes, well, we've got this all prepped together, but we don't know how to weld. And so he says to him, well, let me tell you what, I can't always do this for you, but I will show you how to make the welds. And the first guy and the second guy are, hey, that's great, I would love to learn that. So the first guy shows these two other guys who have constructed the second box how to make a weld. So he shows the first guy, you need this mask, you need to plug this in, to the electric part of the welder, and then you put the ground onto the metal, you put the stick into the prong, or what they call the welding stick, and then shows them how to run a bead. Second guy, third guy, both run a bead after him. They see how to do it. And so the first guy goes to finish what he was doing with his box, while the second guys are completing that box. Now, as soon as they were done there, the guy comes back over and says, hey, by the way, I forgot to ask you, what's your box for? Because my box is put together to store stuff and to ship it. The second guy says, well, I'm putting this box together so I can create a steel stove, more so to speak, a grill on top of it, and so that they would be able to cook food. They put some stuff underneath, they get some food, they cook it up, they eat, and everything's great. Then the question comes, hey, where's all this stuff coming from? Because as they were removing stuff, this pile kept on moving forward slowly, so every time they turned back around, the pile was right back up the exit. So they kept on digging and separating, and the pile would keep on moving towards them. So this is the unendless supply of products to be remanufactured, products to make new things, products to build a house from, fuel to use in order to cook with, etc., etc. So they decide to go check to see where this stuff is coming from, and they walk down and they go to the hill, and they notice that the hill isn't that high, they just couldn't see over it, and they walk around the hill, and then what they see on the other side is people coming in large trucks, dumping off this stuff and pushing it through so that it would go to this hole. They didn't know where the hole was going to, they just knew that it kept going away. They figured it just dropped off into the abyss somewhere. So what we want to do is make sure that that hole keeps getting filled with products and stuff, and that there's people on the other side willing to separate it and create things out of it and use part of the stuff for fuel, like the wood, the paper, and I'd say the cardboard and stuff, things you could burn, but are going to leave just a regular ash. So now we're back to the fire. We burn it in this facility that has the moving fire and pushes the ash out so that they can use the ash later for other things. So now we're getting to where we're going to find out what the fuel source is. So what I would like to add to this is that throughout my life I've been in a lot of construction sites, industrial, residential, commercial, and one thing that these big companies all have in common is that when the job comes to an end, and as they're building, they have a lot of product that's getting thrown out or wasted. Now, a lot of those big dumpsters, they'll throw away a bunch of wood or materials that they don't need or can't use. Doesn't mean they can't be used. And also at the end of a job, a lot of times these companies find it a lot less expensive to take leftover rebar or leftover unfinished pellets of whatever 2x4s, 2x12s, or studs, or even, entire pellets, maybe missing one or two sheets of plywood, and any other supplies like bags of concrete. You can imagine all the things that are being used on a construction site. PVC pipes, and they're all perfectly usable. They haven't been cut, they're not damaged, they're not dirty or anything like that. But what happens is it costs a lot less just to throw it out than it does to be able to take it, ship it, store it, and use it for another job that may never come, or that they may never need that specific stuff again in those quantities or that type. There's so many different types of construction materials out there for the same jobs, as far as your projects are concerned. So what they do is they hire people with trucks, like maybe garbage companies, that tow off those big giant dumpster bins, and they just throw it all in the dumpster bin, and then that's where those trucks are coming from. They're coming and they're dumping off all that perfectly good construction material at the front end of that chute that's going through the hill to those guys that were making those boxes. Now, not only that, other trucks are coming with, let's just say, all the cardboard boxes in truckloads, and they dump that, and all of the different stuff like paper or leftover product of all kinds. You could say like maybe when people are throwing away their old furniture that's not damaged or anything, they just can't sell it, they don't want it, that goes into that chute. Anything you could think of will go into that chute from society. Most people would call it garbage, and one man's garbage is another man's gold. So if people are throwing away all this stuff that is usable or remanufacturable or being able to be turned into different products at the other end of throwing it away from that chute, then what you have is exactly what I'm saying, garbage to gold. Now, let's get to the industry and the nations that are using trash, waste, which I call waste, not human waste. I'm not going to get into that right yet. But waste, because like with the construction companies, it's cheaper to throw it away, perfectly good stuff, than it is to ship and store it. So what Amazon is doing, I believe, and possibly some of the other larger shipping agencies, they'll take a lot of their paperwork from their offices and their refuse cardboards that they get from damaged boxes, etc., and whatever other burnable products they have, and put it in a furnace and burn it to create electricity for their company. And in Japan, they're literally doing that with a lot of the waste from the same areas, from offices and from people throwing away garbage, because in Japan people are very constructive with their waste. They're very respectful. They're respectful to the world, they're respectful to the environment, they're respectful to each other, they're respectful to their nation, and they would like for it to be clean and do the best they can for each other. Over there, they'll take their trash to a furnace and then once again create electricity. But that's all they're doing with it. With the agro-filter power plant, that stuff will come in, and then the fuel processors will come in, and then they will be able to work their magic by separating these different things, putting what's burnable and turned into good ash into the fire, which moves, taking the rest of the product, build themselves their little shanty houses until they can build a nice looking house to live in, and at the same time be able to become a little bit less feral, where they can not burn their houses down and learn how to live indoors again. Because in Portland, and I'm sure in a lot of other places in the Pacific Northwest, a lot of these homeless people who are doing drugs, or maybe not even doing drugs, maybe they're just exhausted or tired, they'll have a tent, or they'll have an RV, or they'll have a camper, and sooner or later the thing catches on fire and burns down. Okay? So you don't really want these people to just move into your apartment complex because the government gave them Section 8, and then next thing you know, they burn down the whole freaking complex because they're not used to living indoors. So as they go to the agro-filter power plant, they will go and be outdoors like normal. Because remember, a lot of these guys are going to be on drugs, but they're going to be exposed to regular tradesmen and professionals like the three guys making the box. They're not on drugs. They do have a direction. They do have the skills to teach other people. And so what they'll do is they'll take these products, separate them, turn what they can burn into a flame, like maybe when people do land restoration and there's a bunch of leftover tree limbs and shrubbery, and like from construction sites where there's a lot of not usable wood but it burns well, you can make a fire out of it and cook with it, or you can make a fire out of it and heat up water to turn a turbine. See where I'm getting with this? One man's garbage is another man's gold. So basically the fuel source for the AFP LLC is the entire country's worth of whatever anybody's thrown away. And we'll get back into maybe some biodegradable stuff that can be put into a landfill. That stuff which can't be burned, or which is really strangely non-usable or too damaged to be reused and needs to go one way or the other, into the flame or into the landfill. So what's going on with the landfill is, I want you to imagine this, and it's not too hard to do because you could look this up on any search engine. In Whittier, California, somebody got the great idea of, instead of putting together a landfill where it's all going to rot, and then put a golf course over it or a park, and which they usually do with most landfills, these people decided to put a bladder in this landfill and then cap it off. So what ended up happening is, as the stuff that's in that landfill biodegraded, it created methane gas. And that methane went up and was captured and was put into a position where it was creating electricity for over 150,000 homes a day from a landfill, because of the biodegradation and the fact that it was capped properly and the emissions were captured and turned into a fuel source for turbines for electricity. And it just keeps going, and there's no stopping that. It's not going to stop decomposing. It's big, it's deep, there's a lot of stuff in there, and you got a golf course on top of it, so it's been beautified. We need to make those type of things. And with the agri-filter power plant, we'll have the ocean water coming in, being partially desalinated and going back out to the ocean and creating a wetland. So we'll have that wetland, which is all inclusive to the power plant. This is all going to be going on at the same time. Products going to be coming in. These professional fuel processors are going to be creating new products. They're going to be separating the bad from the good, the usable from the non-usable. They're going to learn new skills because they're going to learn how to weld. They're going to learn how to create things. They're going to be busy with their hands, because I know you've all heard, and if you haven't, you're about to, idle hands are the devil's playground. If you don't have nothing to do, you tend to get into a lot of trouble. And now, if you're at the agri-filter power plant, you'll be having things to do and be so busy that you will really be able to wean yourself off drugs, because you won't have time to do them. You won't be wanting to do them. You'll be moving in another direction, because those people that are going to the agri-filter power plant aren't going to go there just to house themselves and be homeless like they've been. They're going to go there because there's going to be opportunity. There's going to be schooling. There's going to be the trips out to do the land restoration. There's going to be all of this inclusive stuff, so they can rehabilitate themselves and be able to live in a place without burning it down. So from shanty houses to trailer park type stuff to nice building apartments, studios and 1 and 2 bedrooms. I can see a lot of people benefiting from this, and especially the entire society altogether, and the environment. And we won't have to worry about waste anymore, or landfills, or garbage. If you're throwing all this stuff away, the garbage companies are charging you to take the trash. We will charge them to accept the trash, because they won't have to throw it and store it and pay for all that anymore. Everything that is being wasted, or called garbage or trash, that's being thrown away, that's perfectly remanufacturable or repairable or reusable to somebody who has nothing. Like, say you throw away a couch and it's nice, it's just as it new, goes to the AFP. Now somebody who's got the house or apartment or their shanty can put their sofa in there and have the luxuries of everybody else in society. But the object is to have these people stay busy, separate these products and fuel into these different arenas where we can use what we can for making electricity through making a fire, and also making the landfill where we can bladder it and get the methane and then create electricity from that, and that would run a lot of the housing for the homeless themselves. Not to mention, that's going to be a lot more electricity than they're going to need right away. So that's got to get sold. The electricity from the power plant being, generated by the turbines, that's electricity going to be sold. All the products coming in, it's going to be remanufactured into different things. And believe me, I have it covered. All the plastics, all the metals, all the steels, what will they be made into? Where will they go? How will they benefit the environment? Etc., etc. So what I want you to understand is the fuel is all around you, because there's nothing but trash and garbage everywhere. You can go right out to your apartment complex, right out to your backyard where your garbage can is. You can go down the freeway in most cases and see it all along the side of the road. And if homeless people knew that they can just pick up garbage instead of throw it everywhere and maybe get some money for it, like they do for aluminum cans, we would have a lot cleaner cities and streets. People would start disappearing, because the ones that want to get off the streets and have purpose in life and get respect and rehabilitate themselves and maybe get a job and move that direction will have some place to live and stay. They'll have some schooling, they'll have some medical, some dental, etc. Now, recently in Portland, Oregon, there was one thing that they've done, and they made a bunch of little tiny houses. Some guy, I guess, was smoking rocks 20, 30 years ago, and somebody helped him get off of crack cocaine. And then later on in his life, he decided to try to do the same thing for, to help somebody else. Because somebody helped him, he was able to straighten himself out. A hand up, not a hand out. So that's what these little houses are for. In Portland, Oregon, they just made them. They got like 40 of them. It's been on the news like crazy all day today. And that's definitely a positive way to go. But imagine that in a different arena, a different state. All of those people going to that little house went to the agri-filter power plant and were living there and creating a new village, a new way of life, a way of fixing the environment, of being a professional, of having some respect, a place to live. And as they gain skills and certifications, as they learn how to be whatever out of the trades that they want to be by building this power plant, whether it's residential construction, which they'll be doing for themselves, whether it's building the power plant, concrete, millwrights, pile drivers. I've gone over this. You could think of whatever the trades have, and these people will be first in line to learn it from the people that already know it. So you have the people that are going to show up to be fuel processors and start digging through this product and separating it, being taught by the people who, like I said before in the story, are making these boxes, welding them, and turning them to crucibles and other products that are going to be usable to benefit the people that are there, like stoves to cook on, places to live. You see how this is going? It's very simple to figure this out. Any of the homeless people that want to get off the street and off the drugs and want to do it for themselves, not because they're made to do it, not because you're going to go to jail if you don't do it. They want to be self-sufficient, and on-the-job training is the best way to go for most people who already have a lot of talent and skills and just have not been able to pay that rent. So many construction workers, so many veterans out there, so many people who just don't have a direction in life could go to this. I mean, it doesn't have to be just homeless. I could see it being similar to what used to be provided to people. They've had them here in Oregon, they got them in Nevada, they got them in a lot of states. They used to be called Job Corps centers, where you would get some schooling, your GED or whatever, and you would learn a trade. You would have dorm life to live in. There's a cafeteria to eat 3 meals from, and then you would have some time off after your day in school, learning your trade. You'd be interacting with different people from all around the country, because these Job Corps centers would bring in people from all around the tri-state area. If it was California, Nevada, or Oregon, I went to one when I was young. I also went to a California Conservation Corps, which is where I derived the idea for these fuel processors to be able to go back to nature for once a week and do land restoration, trailblazing, fire breaks, basic cleanup, so that the fire in California and others like it, like in Hawaii, don't happen. And they should never have happened. The mayor of LA, horrible. Governor Newsom, more horrible, have just decimated California and made it a pariah out of the 50 states instead of the golden state it was. I was born and raised in California. I've never seen it so bad, and I'm glad I escaped back in 1996. So believe me, I spent a lot of time trying to get out of that place. And it's a shame that the rest of the country has been brought to the place that it is. But it's a new era, it's a new time, it's a new day. And people like me are stepping forward into the fray. As I was running for President of the United States, and as I may run for local office here in Portland, Oregon, or in the state of Oregon, I'm not going to stop. I'm about God and country. And this agri-filter power plant is going to change the entire game, guys. So, the fuel source, my guys, and ladies and germs, and children of all ages, is all around you. It's what you throw away. It's the furniture you don't want, the armoires that you're going to throw in the garbage, anything you put in the garbage truck. We're not talking human waste. We're not going to the, to the sewage plants to get anything from there. I don't even want the sludge from that. It's a horrible mess, what they did to Bakersfield, California, with all the sludge from the Ventura and LA area that they would mix into, the agricultural areas where they're growing products. Next thing you know, Bakersfield has this weird thing called the valley virus that people get, and it's coming from the dust that blows up from all the sludge that's been mixed into the, the land that they grow the food in. And that's another thing. Man, I'll get on that topic another time on a different channel. But ladies and germs, the fuel source is pretty much what you call garbage and I call waste. We can do this. It'll work. Believe me, the more I can explain, the more you'll understand. It'd be great to have some questions, so that I can help you understand. What part of any of this maybe do you have a question about that you don't understand? I will start paying more attention to if there's any, comments to be made, the more subscriptions people subscribe to, because if people aren't watching these videos, no sense in explaining it more than what I have until somebody asks a question and has watched the video, or has watched the video and has a question. So what we will do is we'll go further into the products that come through, let's just call it like it was, the half pipe, but it's not really going to be that. What's going to happen is it's going to be brought in by trucks and then dumped into segregated areas, and each one would be like a half pipe. As that stuff keeps coming in, it'll keep getting separated and it'll keep getting pushed to the front, and that is what the fuel source is. The fuel source is the fuel processors and all of the garbage and waste around the entire area. No more garbage, landfills, no more waste and trash everywhere. People are going to want to clean that stuff up and send it so that their electric bill goes down when we change it into fuel to turn the turbines. So I know this video's been a little bit long, and I want to go ahead and give you guys a rest. So I'm going to go ahead in the next video explain more, as I said, about remanufacturing the stuff that's going to come in. And so I'll segregate different things like the plastic, what's going to happen to that, the steel in the middle, what's going to happen to that, any of the concrete or other things that we're going to be making things out of, what's going to happen to that, the glass, what's going to happen to the glass, what are people going to be doing and what are they going to be making, how are they going to stay busy, why do they want to be there, and all of that will be covered in the next videos that I make. So I'd like to thank you for coming and listening to the agri-filter power plant, listening to this idea of how to rehabilitate society as far as for the trades, how to get rid of most of all of the homelessness, because they will come on their own accord. I've already put up a video with one of the people that I've spoken to, and I've spoken to people all across the country, that were homeless, and told them about this facility. They all were like really excited about going to it. Unfortunately, homeless people, they don't really get to vote too much. Okay? They don't got an address. They don't got licenses. They don't got no money. There's a lot of them out there. But I bet if they could vote, they would vote yes on build this agri-filter power plant. So, running for President of the United States and trying to take over 1/3 of the most powerful free government in the world was my way of trying to get this facility built and resolve a lot of the other issues that you would see if you were watching my other videos on other channels. I won't get into that. I want you to stay here. So please subscribe, hit the bell, do all that stuff. We need some money, to fund these videos, to fund maybe some computer animated design, maybe get some AI involved in this. And I'm extremely busy, so something like an office where I could focus my efforts on would be very beneficial, like I had last year. That's another story altogether. By the way, if you ever come to Portland, Oregon, I wouldn't suggest renting from Regis. Okay, and they seem like they got their foothold pretty deep here in the area, and I'm thinking maybe they're contributing to the fact that companies are leaving and companies aren't coming and being able to be successful. I had a bad experience with them, so just know that. Once again, thank you for coming to the Agricultural Power Plant. The next videos will be how to deal with all the products that are coming in. This not garbage, it's called resources. Wasted resource that could be remanufactured by a bunch of people who are just sitting around doing drugs on the side of the road, sleeping in tents and on the concrete and wandering. No more wandering. They'll have some place to go, something to do. They'll have dignity, they'll have respect, they'll have a title. They'll be helping the world by getting rid of pollution and helping the environment, especially if the majority of them do want to go for 1 week out into the wilderness and live, like camping for the week and doing land restoration and getting their life battery recharged by the environment, because that really does create your life battery to be regenerated. It gives you back to nature fuel, so that when you go back to the glass and the steel and the concrete and the pollution and all of the electrical currents and the static and the hassle of the hustle bustle of life, you get a rest when you go out and just do the land restoration once a week out of the month. There would be 4 weeks out of the month that it's getting done, because there would be different shifts. It'd be the first week, the second week, third week. People can pick that. And not only that, there will be schooling. There'll be, like I said, the situation where there's like the type of Doctors Without Borders type of a thing, volunteer dentists, all of their food stamps and all their medical and stuff will be focused into that arena, so they'll be able to have facilities for that. There'll be cafeteria for them to eat 3 meals a day. There'll be small market, maybe some script money, AgroFilter bucks, where they can get rewarded and go buy stuff at an AgroFilter commissary. I can envision this small city turning into something that is built in all different areas of the country, so that it can get rid of the problem across the United States. Then eventually export it to other countries where it could also be beneficial to the world. So that's what I'm talking about, guys and girls. Thanks for coming. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week, because I'm trying to put these videos up every week. You guys have a great day. Stay safe. God bless and peace.